What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another installment of Kicking It with Danny. And today, we're gonna talk to DC. We're gonna talk about some comics, some movies, and try to help DC get on the right way. Cause what these movies are doing, let's get into it. So first, right off the bat, growing up, I grew up I wouldn't be like a die-hard comic book fan, but I was a fan of comics and heroes. The first hero group that I was a fan of was X-Men, which was a lot of people's, because we grew up, you watching the X-Men shows. They were like the first comics I saw. They were like everywhere. So X-Men was like my first hero fascination, and then I quickly went to DC because Batman was like my all-time favorite hero. As a fan of these DC comics, it hurts to watch Marvel slap them up in the movie streets. Like, what is DC doing? They just getting clapped left and right in these movie streets. Like Marvel, they got like perfect casting, even with names you don't even know, and they pull it off. Perfect casting, perfect directing, and the universe comes together perfectly. It all works. With DC, it's like, oh, that could have been dope if you did that. Oh, that probably could have been dope if they did this. It's just a bunch of could have been movies, and like, it's disappointing. Like, I don't even know how Shazam and his weird suit that doesn't look that real would work if he had to come into the Marvel, like the DC universe, and meet up with like Batman in his dark brawny suit, and even Aquaman's suit is full metal and looks like metallic armor, and he comes in with this goofy suit. Like, how does that work? So what we gonna do today, I have a list of 3 movies I think would help DCU out, and of course it's all my opinion. So let's get into this list. Hopefully DC looking. These are free. The first 3 are free. Let's go. So this movie will be Dr. Fate. So when we're talking about Dr. Fate, we have options here because being that he's a title it's just a vessel, there's a lot of different people who done Dr. Fate. So if you want to start like with something young, you can go with like Khalid. I think his name Khalid. He's like a younger person. So he can put him in like today's times and people could relate. And I think he was the one where like Dr. Fate like completely took over his body and locked him into like I think it was a vase. And yeah, that's crazy. Dr. Fate did some wild stuff. They even had a Dr. Fate who was a stripper. Like that's how. But back on task. We'll start with an origin story, and you go with like Kent Nelson and how he felt Dr. Fate, and you watch the growth and see like what it's like to be the vessel of Nobu and like the sacrifice you have to make. And because working with Nobu isn't just I'm a hero now, I'd be good, because he works for not chaos. He works for order. What he does is for order. It'd be dope to bring in like that mystical, magical element that like Doctor Strange brought to Marvel. I think Dr. Fate could do that to DC, and it'd introduce people to a name not a lot of people were known, you know? Cause like how Marvel did with Guardians, they weren't a big name like in the comics, and then they brought him in, perfect casting, dope movie, and then they're the Guardians. People love them. They got TV shows and all that stuff. Now, I think that could happen with Dr. Fate. So, my number 3 movie, Dr. Fate. Alright, now number 2, I think this name is already well known. And I think if it wasn't for what's going on now, they could have a record-breaking box office opening. And then number 2, I have Static Shock. Everybody know about your boy Virgil. He was like the coolest thing on Saturday morning cartoons, WB. He was him and all the other Bang Babies. They got their powers when like a gang war was happening at like a chemical plant, and he was just sneaking there, and an explosion happened, and he gave them all powers, and he got the powers of Static, and he became Static Shock. Him and his boy who became Gear, and then the gangs around town though, it just helped amplify their gang wars, because now they walking around with throwing fire and in the darkness and being stretchy. You had a dude who was Rubber Band Man, I think his name, was trying to further his music career by doing some bad things he didn't necessarily want to do, but he did it to further his career. So I can respect. No, I can't respect the hustle because you still did bad things, but we understand the hustle. So it was like regular teens that like was in the struggle in the like Dakota. I didn't know if Dakota's really that bad, but regular teens that were in the struggle getting these powers. So it was like watching them do what they do, and I think that'd be a dope adaptation to the big screen. It's not like Mr. Perfect Superman or the Rich Batman or Aquaman, the Prince of, Atlantis. It's regular teens obtaining these powers and dealing with them in their different ways. I think Static could do for DC what Spider-Man did for Marvel. He can be the young, cool, charismatic face that can like carry into the future and team up with these other heroes, because in the comics, since he's so in and out, you able to write him into places that he wasn't and put him in new situations that could like, you could just make dope films. So number 2, Static. So that brings us to number 1 and the last movie on this list. I think this may be a bit of a curveball for some people. I don't think a lot of people know about this tandem, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. So hear me out. I'm a fan of like buddy cop movies, from like Rush Hour, Lethal Weapon, Men in Black. That's a buddy cop movie. I'm a fan of like those kind of buddy cop movies that has humor in it but has the action, and I think that's what these two can do. First, you have Booster Gold. For those who don't know, he's a hero from the future who came through the past, originally for like glory and fame and all that stuff, because he knows everything. He got future technology, so it's for the fame and glory. But then you see him develop into like an actual hero. I think that dynamic is pretty dope to see him come in as like this glory seeking, I'm futuristic, really pompous, really like arrogant, and watch him like be humbled and become into an actual hero. And then you have Blue Beetle, who is just dope. He has this like alien scarab on him, who makes him like it gives him like this exosuit and exo armor, and he's dope. Blue Beetle is like extra cool. Blue Beetle has also had multiple I guess you call hosts, and are points where Blue Beetle becomes, it's like an evil scarab. He goes bad. And so to have that dynamic where Booster Gold goes from being best friends with Blue Beetle to having to defeat the Blue Beetle, that is dope and some gold to see on the big screen. So at number 3, or not number 3, it's number 1. At number 1, one of my personal favorites that I would love to see on the big screen, a buddy cop movie with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. Make it happen. And that's my list. I hope you watching, DC. I just gave you 3 bangers that I think would be great for the theaters whenever we get back to the theaters. Let me know your list down below. And thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more lists, even though Marvel's doing good, I may do a Marvel one as well. But until next time, thanks for kicking it with your boy. See ya. Just wanna be free. This night's just for me. Yeah, she just wanna be free. Yeah, she tryna party till 3 up all night.